All right, why teachers' unions are America's most dangerous collective. Let's check it out. And welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. It's astonishing the level of despair Americans disregard today when you have a media that protects the ideology that's responsible for that despair. Our public schools are one of the best examples of this. There are many. Of course, you've seen countless videos like this over the last few years. Really bad kids raised by really bad parents sent to schools full of teachers who've frankly given up. School beatdowns often last for minutes these days before a zoned-out school official finally decides to stop the latest violent assault in a public school. Thousands of America's public schools look like this. And as awful as these videos are, the test scores in many American public schools are even more offensive. A new report shows there are 30 Illinois public schools where not a single student can read at grade level. 30 different public schools, not one student can read at grade level. Schools spending tens of millions of dollars of your money every year, not training one student to actually be able to read. And there are 53 schools where not a single student can do math at grade level. 53 different schools in one state where not one student can sufficiently do math. As you probably expect, almost all those schools are located in the Chicago region, where America's teachers' unions have one of their strongest footholds, a deeply corrupt city where unions and not the people really control the government. The citizens, of course, are the real losers in blue American cities. We know that story. In the symbiotic relationship between the Democrat Party and teachers' unions, there's no room for accountability, of course, and the corruption is on full display. Just a few weeks ago, Lori Lightfoot's campaign asked public school teachers to force students to campaign for her reelection in exchange for school credit. And of course it happened, because as long as Democrats stay in power, school teachers, through their union, effectively run the city of Chicago. And they love that. And bad teachers, which of course are the backbone of these militant teachers' unions, are never held accountable. And they love that too. It's the same story all over the country. In Baltimore, Maryland, there are 23 different public schools that have 0 students proficient in math. Not a single student proficient in math in 23 different schools. And it never changes. Because acknowledging the failure of American schools means condemning institutions and ideas that are too big to fail, namely collective bargaining, unions, big government, these pillars of this corrupted country that they can't let fail. You notice how loud the machine barks back whenever anybody starts talking about charter schools, school choice. You always hear this.
I am not a charter school fan because it takes away the options available and money for public schools.
This year, we're focusing more on trying to get rid of this education bill that we feel would hurt education more than trying to actually elevate it and make it better for our students.
What's at stake here is the equal education and equal access to education of all children. Charter schools, in one sense, create 2 tiers.
They fight back pretty dramatically when those ideas come up. They only get this angry when they're exposed. Every single charter school installed in a low-income community is, of course, a massive billboard announcing the cure for the cancer that is America's public education system and our teachers' unions, and the union's corrupt relationship with the Democrat Party. If Americans really actually care to start identifying the cause of our inner-city rot, if we really want to identify the decay, it's not a problem of equity. Anybody with a brain knows that. It's fatherless families, eroding culture, and bad schools. Millions of inner-city kids are never given a chance in so many different aspects of life. And teachers' unions will fight to the death to prevent any of this from changing, because the change that could help lift up our inner-city communities will cost them their power and their leverage over the American government. And that power is astonishing. During the pandemic, it was revealed that the American Federation of Teachers managed to force the CDC to allow union leaders to rewrite the official CDC school guidance. Can you imagine? According to a report from the House Oversight Committee, the American Federation of Teachers edits ultimately led to thousands of schools across the country to remain shuttered throughout the 2020-2021 school year. The CDC didn't want to do that. Randi Weingarten wanted to do that. She single-handedly destroyed the education of millions of American kids because your kid's education is not the priority. Protecting illogical, COVID-manic, MSNBC-obsessed teachers and flexing her power over American government by securing a year-long staycation for union members, that's the priority. Randi Weingarten is a tumor, now fully embracing Marxist tactics to indoctrinate your kids in schools, brainwashing them to be loyal Democrat Party supporters when they begin voting, and then defending it publicly like this.
Stop the politics in schools. Let us teach children, and let us make sure that kids, particularly these high school kids, have this kind of elective that would be really good in this country right now.
Nobody in America cares less about your kid's education than that woman right there. Fact. Keep the politics out of school is a nice way of saying your kids belong to us from 7 to 3 and we'll do with them what we please. Leftists hate family almost as much as they hate religion. People from God-fearing good families, of course, are harder to indoctrinate, and the survival of these teachers' unions depends wholly on major American cities and their tens of thousands of public schools staying, of course, very dark blue. The Secretary of Education under Donald Trump, Betsy DeVos, was a champion of eviscerating our Department of Education and these teachers' unions. She wanted to do the right thing for kids, and of course, they tried to destroy her for it, and they worked very hard on her. Ma'am, it's good to have you back on the show. It's good to see you again. Our schools are failing miserably in inner cities. It's a full-blown crisis. The unions are desperate to hide. In the Bronx and New York, 4 out of 5 students can't do math. Los Angeles County, the average math proficiency score is 30%, and nobody has a plan to fix this.
No, you're absolutely right. And, COVID revealed a lot of things. And we've often referred to COVID as a national emergency, but the real national emergency is how these school unions have kept kids out of school for months, if not years on end, and the learning losses are staggering. But that was all accumulating well before COVID. What COVID did was laid bare the failings of a system that for years has failed kids across the country, particularly kids in urban areas and the poor areas of our country where they don't have any other choice or any other option. That's why education freedom's on the rise.
Right. And the moment, and it tells you everything about the agenda here and what's really going on. The moment that you point to charter, the moment that you point to school choice or vouchers, these people go nuclear. They see it working and they go nuclear.
Absolutely. And they have for many years. And they really, I believe, overplayed their hand in the last 2 years, extorting money from Congress, $190 billion for COVID relief funds, and most of it going unspent and untargeted to actually help kids. You know, there's a parent in Baltimore who recently came forward and said, my child can't read. I need to have my child go to a Sylvan Learning Center and get a tutor. I can't afford the $1,000 to do that. Where am I going to get it? And it falls on deaf ears in the schools, even though they could help in situations like that. The reality is the big school unions are all about themselves. And all of the people who are part of the system, they do not care about kids. But that is why parents are rising up and saying, enough. We want to take back control of our kids' education. And that's why we've seen big moves and bold moves on the part of governors and legislators in states like Arizona and Iowa and Nevada, and soon to be Florida, hopefully Texas very soon as well. But the list is going on of the states that are actually taking up policies to say, enough. Our kids are the most important thing here, and we have got to support families supporting them.
Yeah, I mean, it's as simple as taking a school, and if it doesn't pass some measure of accountability, if there aren't some amount of kids that are if a kid can't get a good education there, any money that goes towards any of your money that goes towards that school should go right back in your pocket so you can pay for private. I mean, if we can't get that kind of accountability, this problem never ends. Betsy DeVos, thank you so much for taking the time. It's great to see you again.
Thanks so much, Rob.